Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. You know, we agree on probably 90% of the issues that hit the floor. We use our unanimous consent a lot, and there are a few issues that divide us. And we have to be careful, I think, that we don't be hypocritical as we discuss these very sensitive issues. Of course, I rise in opposition to SB 55. And I want to make it clear that, and I think I speak on behalf of all Republicans in this country, including the state of California, that we deplore the violence that we see being used with guns, especially in our schools. And it's a symptom of our lack of providing mental health services to our youngsters that find themselves more in need of mental health services. And I would say that a big factor in that requirement is because of social media. So this bill will place a 10-year firearm prohibition on individuals with nonviolent drug or substance use behavior used in a misdemeanor. I find it very ironic that if you look at the cause of death in people that use opiates in this country, it's epidemic. We've lost more people to overdoses of narcotics than we lost in the Vietnam War. And a big culprit in these deaths is the importation, the illicit importation of fentanyl into this country. And I've talked with many of you, including our budget chair, about my concerns about not allowing bills to move forward that don't go after the user as aggressively as I would like to see, but to go after the distributors of these poisons that are marketing these poisons as though they are another narcotic. As an example, fentanyl, 50 times stronger than heroin, but it's being marketed as heroin. So when some unbeknownst abuser is injecting heroin, they think they're injecting heroin, they are dying of respiratory depression while the needle is in their arm and still pumping the plunger of that poison into their veins. Yet when my colleague from Orange County brings bills forward to stop this and to really put some teeth into the laws to stop the needless loss of life of thousands, not a few, but thousands of lives, this legislature won't even let those bills out of committee. You know, I know many of you don't like the Second Amendment. And if you don't like the Second Amendment, then you know what? Then put a bill forward and say you want to abolish the Second Amendment in the state of California, and we're going to disregard federal law like we do often here. Thank heavens for the court of law, because many times when we have not great bills like this that challenge our constitutional rights, the courts have to intervene, and I opine that this will probably get off the floor, it'll probably make it to the assembly, it'll probably make it to the governor's desk, and then we got to waste taxpayer money on defending it in the court of law, and ultimately the gun rights groups are going to show that it is unconstitutional. So if you have a minor misdemeanor involving substance abuse, you won't be able to get a firearm for 10 years. But isn't this crazy? But if you're 24 years old and you rape a teenager, you'll be out of prison with a clean record when you're 25 years old. Think about that for a minute. I'm sorry, but this just doesn't seem to make sense to me if we're really concerned about so-called mass incarceration and the left's desire to empty our prisons and making our communities less safe, which has actually happened. Are we now going to be passing bills that deprive individuals of their rights simply because they have a higher statistical probability that they may engage in violent gun-related crimes? You know, I've heard often on the floor of the Senate that young people's brains don't mature until they're 25 years old. I think many of you I've even mentioned that on the floor of the Senate. Well, if they don't have a mature brain, then why are we trying to let 16-year-olds vote? I don't understand that concept. How is this fair? How does this bill even make sense? In short, passing laws that take away the rights or impose punishments based on an individual's higher statistical probability is not a path that lawmakers should be making in this state. This is a bad bill. This is an unconstitutional bill if it becomes law. And for those reasons, stand up for Second Amendment rights and say no to SB 55.